Hello.
Hello.
And are we good? Can you
Can
hear
you?
both of us?
Hey, there we go.
Yay!
Yay, we missed that
Back
whole
in
part, but
business.
oh
We
well.
now have the same viewer. Hi, Joy. Thank you for joining our
Thank
podcast.
you for telling us you couldn't hear
Yay!
because otherwise we would have gone a while probably without
Probably we
being heard, and that
because
wouldn't have been
then we
good.
closed this out, which shows us our audio levels. So yeah, let's just keep that open. Make sure
Okay.
those bars are going up and
In
down.
fact, maybe you can just move it. Oh no, it's right there. Yeah. Okay. I
Yay!
see.
So
Wait.
it just keeps freezing. I guess we got to keep this right here.
Yep.
All right.
Just like that.
So you were saying,
Okay. Repeat what I just said again. Um. We are talking about being a gentleman. This is a topic that I have been interested in for a while. It's something that, and when I say a while, I mean like most of my life. It's something that I've always aspired to, being a gentleman. I have four sisters, they're all younger than me. Also, my dad is a pastor, but he did not grow up with sisters. Well, I mean, he has a sister, but she was the youngest, and he has three other brothers. So essentially, after getting married and then having four girls after me, and I'm very much an introvert, so I don't really interact with people very much. So he mostly had to deal with all the girls and everything. So he learned a lot just through that situation. And then he would teach me what he learned is like 8 or something I learned about girls. and, and oftentimes I would say maybe 5 out of 10 times, maybe not quite that many. I'd be like, yeah, Dad, I already figured that one out. But otherwise, yeah. So being a gentleman, I learned things about that, and just it was just in general, growing up as a Christian. In general, my parents taught me be a gentleman. That's that's something that a good Christian man should be.
yeah,
And then also at one point, I actually heard about George Washington when he was a teenager, wrote out what he called the rules of civility and something like that. But anyway, essentially 110 rules of the
whoa,
correct way to act,
110.
something like that. Let me look at it real quick. I copied it into my notes here. Rules of civility and decent behavior in company and conversation. Um, Scroll all the way down to the bottom. Yep, 110. And it's just a lot of different things. These are a lot of rules that any guy should follow in attempts to excuse me, to be a gentleman. But yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot.
it's a
It's a
lot.
lot of stuff. And then I also grew up with sisters, but in a very different way,
Mhm.
very different situation. So my sisters were basically my only friends.
Yeah.
And so I less treated them as, oh, those are, the women, the way you kind of take it from an outside perspective. You're
More or
like from the
less.
outside looking in. I'm more the opposite of that, where I'm like, well, I know how they think. I know a lot of how they think. I know a lot of how they act. But then every once in a while, they surprise me. Then I'm like, oh snap, what's the default?
Yeah.
So for the most part, I haven't really done any thought or study into it. It's more experience, which seems to be a lot of how we approach social interactions in general.
Yes. Yeah.
I learned by experience, by getting in there and being like, oh, what do we do? What are we thinking in this situation? And you're there sitting in the background. So what do I think about this situation? You're looking around. And so it's interesting. A lot of times we can come to the same conclusions in completely opposite ways.
Yep. Yep.
And so the three main things that I want to address in this podcast is, first, what is a gentleman? Or no, this is what is a gentleman. The three is where to be a gentleman, when to be a gentleman, how. So because there's certain places where being a gentleman isn't necessary and sometimes isn't even beneficial.
Mhm.
There's certain times where you have to stop being a gentleman for certain reasons. But the biggest thing, and I feel like we'll probably spend the most time on, is how do you be a gentleman in those situations where it is expedient.
Mhm.
And the where also includes who to be and so it's all about what situations call for it and what levels of each, because I feel like that's being a gentleman is something we've all but lost in this culture.
More or less, yes.
Half of the time it's because guys feel like girls don't even want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're trying to be a gentleman to a girl who doesn't want you to be a gentleman, like, that's a situation. So let's get into it. Let's do the where and who. I feel like those can kind of go hand in hand, because the where is pretty easy. It's usually in any public setting.
Mm-hmm.
To an extent still if you're in a private setting, but usually you can read the person, read the room, and decide what level of teasing, goofing off, whatever.
Yeah.
But in public situations, you really want to have that amount of chivalry.
I will say, kind of right off the bat here, one thing I've noticed is that being a gentleman and chivalry are actually two different things.
Really?
Yeah. So chivalry is actually a specific code of conduct during battle.
That's true. It was the code of the knights.
Yes.
And I heard it in chivalry. There's only like, I think it was like 5 pages about your conduct, and then there was like 100 pages about, or more, about how to do battle. So if a girl ever isn't letting you be chivalrous, just stab her a couple of times. That is not life advice.
No. Not quite how it
But
works.
no, I heard that from a meme, so it's probably by a guy who doesn't interact with girls anyway. Uh,
Yeah, something like that.
but yeah. So
Yeah.
does it really matter what the difference between those are? Does that change the way you look at things?
Um, more or less. I think like well, so like I said, being a gentleman and being chivalrous are two different things because chivalry is your actions. Chivalry is essentially being a gentleman in battle. That's kind of the idea. So chivalry is almost a step further than being a gentleman. Not quite. Let me
Yeah,
get
I
the
like defining terms.
definition here. Chivalry definition.
All right.
Technology.
Wait for the slow internet.
Yeah. And so while we're waiting for this, one thing that I thought of is people often say, that chivalry is dying, or
Chivalry is dead.
yeah, stuff like that. Or maybe if like a guy's being a gentleman or whatever, oh man, chivalry isn't dead yet or whatever. And I'm thinking, it's like, I guess, but is this guy a general or something? Is he a knight? Like, okay, what is he doing battle wise? Why chivalry?
Yeah,
And
it's weird the way we use words sometimes.
yes, so chivalry, the definition that comes up here, um, first definition: a medieval system, principles, and custom of knighthood.
Yep, that's basically
Chivalry.
it. That's it. It's
Yeah. The fourth definition here: a group of knights or gallant gentlemen. It's like I said, it's essentially gentlemen in a battle setting.
yeah.
So almost a step up from
Yeah, because the
gentlemen.
knights in medieval day um they were this noble warrior. They were kind of almost like they went from city to city. They're like royal knights. So they kind of upheld the reputation of the crown. And so that's why um they were kind of associated with being a gentleman because they stuck to a strict code of conduct to try to, never do wrong to the crown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I just looked it up here real quick. The gentleman definition. First one that comes up is a man of gentle or noble birth or superior social position. Um, Another one, the second definition, a well-mannered and considerate man with high standards of proper behavior.
And that's the one that we're really focusing on
Mm-hmm.
is a well-mannered and considerate man with high standards of proper behavior. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
It's about having a standard behind your conviction, right? And so it starts with the conviction is that you believe that women ought to be treated differently
Mm-hmm.
than men. And then that goes with the when. When are you chivalrous to who? You don't have to be a gentleman. For instance, at work, we are not gentlemen at work. You can cooperate. For the most part, not really. We're we're not we don't try to be brash or crude. Even though that is definitely around us, but us both working factory, it's not gentle because
No.
that's just not the guys there. Now, I don't think I'm ever rude to the women there because there's that difference. But with the guys there, you say stuff, insults fly everywhere, and it's just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think some people think of a gentleman as some guy with a suit and tie and vest all the time, just lording over others. Oh yeah, and or they think of it as a guy who's just a suck up and wants to impress girls.
I will say that you were talking about they think of a guy with a suit and tie and vest, and that actually reminds me of, I don't remember where, but there was a college that one of the teachers started a gentleman's club, and he actually had the guys would meet, I think it was once a week, something like that, but yeah, they actually started a dress code for the guys in that club, and so there's always a button down shirt, dress pants, nice shoes, and either a tie or a bow tie or something, a vest, and that's just all they wore all the time.
Wow.
And then they'd always get together, and the teacher would teach on how to be a gentleman, and he taught these guys how to be a gentleman, and then they tried to live that through everyday life. And that was really interesting.
Yeah. Though I would say it's like, yeah, it's great if you dress nice, but I don't think that's ever required
No,
for being a gentleman.
not required. No, I mean you are trying to look your best.
Yeah, I
your
think
best.
not being a slob would be that would
Yeah.
be the part of considerate.
Hmm.
You wanna consider yourself,
Yes.
making sure you don't have to look perfect, but you want, for the most part, if you're in a public situation, part of being a gentleman is looking presentable,
Hmm.
and that's and if it's church, that means dressing up. If it's going to a friend's house, jeans and a t-shirt. And it's just considering where you're going to be and who you're going to be with.
Mm. You're not out to impress the people that you're
Mhm.
going to be around, but at the same time, you're out to leave a good impression. You're but you're to have a good reputation. You're out to
Yeah.
keep a clean reputation. One of the main thoughts with being a gentleman is it's very much common sense. It's just like I was thinking about it, and essentially, a gentleman is essentially being a good person all the time. That's kind of the idea of being a gentleman, but not only being a good person, but going above and beyond with everything that you do, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and usually it's applied specifically to in social situations.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so you got the where, kind of got the when, and so the biggest thing, of course, is how. How do you be a gentleman? And I like for my viewers to have really lay it out, right? Lay out the groundwork. How do we become this gentleman that we aspire to be? Because I can aspire to start a electric car company, but if I don't know the first thing about making electric cars, then it's kind of dumb to aspire to that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So with that said, what is it to be a gentleman? How do we go about doing that? What are the steps? Assume I'm a guy who doesn't interact with girls much. I'm not very considerate. I don't think about how I'm acting, what I'm saying. What do I change? What do I do to move forward?
Well, definitely one of the most, I guess you could say, stressed rules of being a gentleman is ladies first. That's one of the biggest things in being a gentleman is no matter your situation, if it's a thing where, like, say you're in line for something, a lady walks in behind you, a gentleman's going to step out of the way and say, go ahead, you first.
Yeah.
and again, for anything.
Yeah.
Open the door for a lady. That's
Yep,
that's also a really big
That's
deal.
and that's really just an extension of ladies first.
Yes.
So
Yep.
instead of going ahead of them, you open the door, let them go first.
Yes.
And so, you're not going to open the door for a lady. You're not going to stand there with the door open just wondering if some lady's going to come by.
No.
It's not the act of opening the door, it's the act of letting them through without as much trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a gentleman, this is how I had somebody explain it to me. I don't remember who it was, but they said that a gentleman does not walk behind a lady because they're not following her, but they also don't walk in front of a lady because she's not following him. I mean, unless there's different circumstances where it is
Of
that.
course.
Um,
But all other things being equal.
yes, and also another reason you don't walk in front of a lady if it's somebody you're with.
Yeah.
Like it's you and them, you're going somewhere. You're not going to walk in front of them because of the lady's first rule, but at the same time, you're not going to walk behind them because you're with this person.
Yeah, because it's creepy. Also, like I mean,
Yeah.
someone walking
That
behind.
could be
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
So you walk beside a lady. A
Don't worry
gentleman
about
walks beside a lady.
Yeah.
But then once you get to the door, you step forward and you open the door to allow her through. Now, I will say that one of the main reasons that has gone down a lot really started with the rise of feminism.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, that really put a big damper on being a gentleman.
Yeah, and it made it more difficult to know what you should and shouldn't do. It's like, what do I even do anymore?
I will say a quick bit of advice, I guess, to the ladies out there is, yes, you can do it yourself. We know that. In fact, there are many things that you can probably do better.
Yeah.
But like, for example, opening the door, opening your car door, that's something you can do yourself. And if you do it yourself, it's probably even faster if you do it yourself rather than waiting for the guy to do it.
Yeah.
But then being a gentleman is, or you have to allow the guy to be a gentleman.
Yeah, because if you don't allow him to, there's no way he's going to be able to.
Yes. I will say for guys out there, you have to try. You can't just be like, oh, she doesn't let me be a gentleman, so I'm just not gonna. That's
not any better.
Yeah, not at all any better.
It's you know, but yeah, that is one thing I have noticed is that it's harder. There's been people where I've tried to open the door for them, but they're just, well, the girl was faster than me, even though I was actively trying, and they're just like, oh no, it's fine. I'm like, yeah, I know you can, but I want to. This is a thing I want to do, and I think some of the time, and it's no fault of their own, they just don't realize that. If it's an actually good gentleman, if it's someone who's actually trying to be a gentleman, they're gonna want to do that. And so yeah, if you can let us be gentlemen, that would be wonderful. Now, if some guy's just like lazily trying to step up,
guys, actually try.
Yeah,
don't just be like, she's not even gonna let me, so why bother trying? Always try to be a gentleman.
Yeah, because it's not about her. That's the other thing. It's not about, well, she never thanked me for it.
You're not doing this for the thanks.
Exactly. You're not doing it for the thanks. You're not doing it for the recognition. It's about upholding yourself to a standard. It's about upholding yourself to a form of conduct, no matter what other people think about it. All right, so this isn't for anyone. It really is just for yourself.
Being a gentleman is more of a way of life rather than something to do.
Yeah.
rather than a part of your life. Being a gentleman for all men should be a way of life. We're talking about opening doors for ladies, and honestly, a gentleman is going to open the door for anyone around him,
Yeah,
not just ladies. Now, I will say ladies is often the main focus of a gentleman's actions, just
because
because.
if all things are being equal, then a gentleman would try to be a gentleman to another gentleman who would also try to be a gentleman. So there's a lot more
Yeah, that-
overlap when you really try hard to be a gentleman to a gentleman, which is, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that does
and
that'll mess
really,
things
if it's all guys, I really do think the code changes.
yes.
I would say I can confidently say that, the way we act around, I call it around the boys, because that's a very understood phrase, and I've thought about this a lot, because like we had the bachelor's party with TJ, and the way we were acting there is not the way I think you should act when you're in mixed company.
Yeah. There's
But I also think it was acceptable.
Yeah.
I think there's a different standard when you're around other guys, which is why, because you don't have to be as careful, is what I would say.
yeah, as long as you're not doing wrong around other guys, it's not as it's
Crucial.
not as crucial. Yes, there's what was I say? Something that I've realized, that something that I've noticed is that with us guys, the way we're built, being a gentleman is extremely fulfilling.
Yeah.
I don't know, how many of you out there have tried, but
You should
when you
definitely give it a
try to
try.
be a gentleman, when you actually go out of your way to do something nice for a lady, to do something nice for those around you, it's fulfilling. It's just like,
Yeah,
that was awesome. I want
because
to do
it
again.
really helps your self-esteem, honestly,
Mhm.
in a constructive way. Because there's ways that help your self-esteem that cause you to be very prideful.
Mhm.
All right, oh, I'm gonna show people how good I am at playing cards, or I'm gonna show them how cool my bike is, how cool my car is, how much whatever. Sure, that might give you a small boost in self-esteem, but it also causes you to be very prideful.
Mhm.
But he's right. It makes you feel so good because it's just a selfless act, and I feel like it's almost innately, like almost an instinct in us to enjoy being that person.
Yeah, I think that's something that God created in a guy, is just the enjoyment of being a gentleman. Something I was
Yeah.
thinking about. Well, okay, one, a gentleman is not proud.
Yeah.
Pride. There's no place in a true gentleman for pride.
Yeah.
Another thing that with a gentleman is gentle is part of the name.
Yeah.
A gentleman is not going to be, I can't think of the word, but like brash. It is not going to be
Brash, harsh.
Yeah, a gentleman is going to be gentle, but that doesn't mean weak.
Okay.
A gentleman is like the definition, or kind of the
It really is
general
the
sense.
definition of meekness.
Yeah, the general definition of meekness is a quiet strength. That's kind of like, yeah, the general
Yeah, it's
definition of
it's
meekness.
having it really is having the confidence, having that confidence, unwavering confidence, having that fortitude, but not in pride, not this is who I am, this is what I can do. It's just this is what it is,
hmm
right? You have that fortitude of, well, I'm going to be a gentleman whether anyone cares or not. Or I'm going to tell you what it is because you need to hear it right now in this specific situation, whether anyone cares or not. It's not oh, I'm just gonna, it's not. That's the difference between a gentleman and a simp.
Yeah.
Okay, a simp will do anything in their power to make a girl feel better. That is not what a gentleman is.
Yes.
Because they are doing that because I'm a people pleaser. And I hang around girls a lot, so that kind of makes me a simp. Sometimes. And for the most part, I try not to be. But sometimes I am. And when that happens, it's not about sticking to a code anymore.
Mhm.
It's not, I will break my code. I will break proper conduct if I think it will make them feel better. And see, so that's the difference. Is a gentleman has a code. A gentleman has a way of living. This is what I do. This is why I do it.
Mhm.
A simp or a people pleaser is I am going to react the way someone wants me to. It's the difference between reacting and proacting.
Yes.
So a proactive person is going to say, here's a situation. This is how I already know to act towards it.
Yeah.
And then a people pleaser is, this is this specific situation. I'll just react however it feels correct.
A thought to put in there is a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but there are definitely people out there that is just their natural personality, is to try to be kind of a people pleaser. They want people to be happy, and that's not a bad thing.
No, wanting people to be happy is it really is a good thing, because there's some people that could care less.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing between us two. He's very apathetic.
Yes.
He will say it himself.
Yes.
I am the exact opposite. And so a lot of times there'll be a situation where he could care less, but I do something about it because I care. Or there'll be a situation where something needs to be said that's hard, or something needs to be done that's hard, and I'm afraid to do it because I don't want to upset people, but he could care less, so he just steps in and says it anyway.
Yes.
So we play off each other well that way.
Yes. I think what would be a good idea for any guy out there is to maybe look into some personality type stuff, to kind of help understand your own personality and get an understanding of other personalities out there, because that can help you a lot. Like, for example, like Silas was just saying, I'm a very, very apathetic person. I couldn't care less on a lot of things. So one thing that I have to be, constantly working on, something that has to be constantly on my mind, is that I have to make sure that I am caring enough, that I am, I'm actually trying to be as empathetic as I need to be.
Yeah.
Not just be like, blow people off. And yeah, that's just not a good idea. So understanding your own personality, understanding personalities of people around you really helps in being a gentleman.
Yeah.
It can help you understand, okay, these are my shortcomings. And so these are things that I have to work on. These are things that I need to figure out and work on for myself. And then these are different ways that people with other personalities react to different situations. And so I can kind of gauge or base what I'm doing off of their reactions, because I understand, like, some people when they're very not necessarily emotional about something.
High strung.
No, passionate. So something that people are like really passionate about. This is something they enjoy. They're really passionate about. They'll get louder and louder and louder.
Yes.
And Yes, and some people also, in their reaction to something, maybe you do something, they react and they're just, blah, right in your face, and you're like, "Oh no, what did I do wrong?" Well, I personally know a few people that that is just who they are. It sounds like they're like, "Oh man, okay, stop yelling at me." I'm like, "I'm not yelling at you." Yes, you are. they're That's just who they are. They're just they're maybe a louder person. They're more passionate, more almost high strung person. And so when you understand that, you can see that that's just who they are. That's you can work with it. You can rather than reacting to something that they don't even realize is going on. So for them, that's just their normal reaction. That's just how they go. And so then when you react negatively to their normal, that's going to totally throw them off. And I was like, wait, what? And
Yeah.
so being a gentleman, you can try to learn yourself, who you are, understand your own personality, understand your own shortcomings, and then go out there and do stuff. Like, for example, let's just get back to the topic of opening a door. You trying to open the door for a lady, and she's like, "No, you go." And you're like, "No, I'm just trying to be nice and open the door for you." And she's like, "No, no." It can help you understand that she's not trying to just like totally blow you off. She might even realize, "Oh, that's really nice," and so as her
Thanks.
thanks, or even maybe just like counter to it or something, maybe she feels like, "Oh, I want to be nice, so I'm gonna let you go through instead." Like, well, that kind of defeats the purpose. But
Sometimes you just it's better to just be like, okay.
yeah, sometimes if it's just gonna go crazy, just go with it. Go,
Yeah.
step in, maybe hold the door open behind you as she walks in. And even something like that, I've had situations like that.
Uh-huh.
Maybe at a gas station or something, walk up and she's like, "No, you're not." Okay, fine. Okay. Go through and hold the door open behind you. And she's like, "Okay, thanks." Even something just as small as that, they notice that's something is that's something that stands out to them. We
Yeah.
got a little time, so okay. So another thing on gentlemen is that you're not ready for a fight. You're ready to defend if necessary, but you're not going to go out and just pick a fight.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
that's a big thing is that I've heard it said so many times. It's like you always got to be ready for a fight or something like that. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you the a g- just a man, and this holds true no matter who you're talking to, especially with women, but even with guys, almost just as much is when you're conversing, even if you start arguing, even if something gets heated, you never want it to get to the point of a fight. That's never what we want. It would be much better to just walk away, right? And I don't know if you've had anyone challenge you to a fight.
No.
No, okay. I had one time, but it was a kid. He didn't know what he was doing. And I was like, nah. I knew I could I knew I could take him down. And I'm like, there's no way I'm not even gonna try. And it's not like and nothing was coming of it. It was just he insulted someone else. I told him to stop. And he's like, oh, you think you can take and mind you, this kid, okay, let me just set the scene. I've told you plenty. This kid is insulting a girl who I'm friends with, who I was just talking to. And he won't stop. So I look at him, I say, don't talk to her like that. He turns to me and wait. Here, stand up, if you don't mind. This is about how short he was compared to me. And this was a few years ago when I was shorter. Okay, you look at me. Oh yeah? What do you think you're gonna do? And he starts going over to me. this kid's like, I don't know, 8, 9 years old. I was like 14. I'm like, I did. I have to admit it. I contemplated body slamming him just for a second. I'm like, it will be so easy. But no, I did not. Instead, I just picked him up and I set him back down and I said, I could take you on. I'm not going to fight you. It's not worth it. You know, he was just like, so yeah, he left us alone after that. But it's, if you try to pick a fight, I'd seen other kids start picking fights, and I'm like, guys, it's not worth it. There's no one wins. It's all about your pride.
Mm-hmm.
So being willing to defend, I was willing to defend her, but I'm not going to fight him. Even if it would have been a fair match, it's still, I'm like, no, whatever. It's about defending honor, not defending your own pride.
Mm-hmm. I will say, if you do end up in a fight, don't swing first.
No, for legal
But
reasons.
yeah, for legal reasons. But at the same time, finish it quick. Just like
Finish it quick, finish it correctly. So here's my rules. I've done a lot in martial arts, and I had a great teacher that wasn't fluff. Didn't teach fluff. Didn't teach, all right, and here's a crane, and if here's your stance that you get into. You don't have time to get into a stance if someone has a knife to your face. Anyway, he said his first rule is run with honor. If there's a chance to run, don't fight, just run. If this guy's trying to kill you. If this guy isn't trying to kill you, talk him down. If you can't talk him down and you legitimately think he's just being stupid, just bring him to the ground. You end it quick. You don't do one of these. You don't start squaring up. You don't start talking trash. You just get the situation over with quickly. That's a big thing. Is if you have to fight, you do it right away. You do it as quick as possible. And if you can't fight, don't fight.
If you have the opportunity,
to run, do it. But if other people are in danger, well, then yeah, take them down and make sure the other people can get out of the way.
And in that case, you're kind of floating into chivalry at that point.
Absolutely. And it really, chivalry is almost, like you said, the next step up, like the box that contains gentlemen. The gentleman is part of it. Chivalry is really how to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so in that there is being a gentleman, in that there is being a faithful man, which that includes like hardworking, being a fierce man, being able to argue if it matters and walk away if it doesn't, being able to fight if it matters and walk or run if it doesn't. And so there's a whole host of things that are encompassed in chivalry because it's about being a nobleman.
Yeah. So, we've got a couple minutes here. I have a couple more thoughts.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Back to here. So, we've already talked about being a gentleman is you treat a lady right, and the original definition of a lady is a whole new thing. It's essentially the gentleman of women. So there is technically a difference between lady and woman, but for the case of a gentleman, you're going to treat all women like a lady. So you treat all women like a lady. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. We're not going to go into that right now.
And that's for a different podcast.
Yes. Then you treat all women like a lady. A gentleman. What was the second thing we were talking about?
You treat a woman like a lady. It's about being a gentleman. So
you don't. A gentleman's not a fighter. But a couple other thoughts that I was thinking about here too is a gentleman. Oh, it's not proud. That was the other
Yep.
one we're talking about. But a gentleman is always honors those that deserve honor. Um,
Mm.
for example, maybe somebody, a veteran or something that you always, or even just older men around you need to receive your honor, especially somebody who has shown that
Deserving.
they have been a gentleman. Yes,
Yeah.
they have had a good, I guess you could say, track record of in their own life. Those are somebody like maybe you're with the guys, you're hanging around goofing off, whatever, and somebody like, hey, see that guy? That's maybe even go up and shake his hand. Just
Yeah,
thank
and
you for
like
being a good
when they
man.
walk past, don't just ignore them. Say hi. Say how you doing. And
Hmm.
that is actually something that I didn't do a lot of because the I was really young when I left the church first time, and then in the other church, I never really grew up quite knowing how to interact socially because it was a tiny, tiny church, and there was a lot of different stuff going on. So that is something that I've learned is that you need to treat them with honor and with respect. When you talk to them respectfully. You shake their hand, and that's just and like if it's a veteran and if you haven't said it yet and you know a veteran, thank them for serving because that's not easy to do.
Yeah. Also, yeah, and then also another thing we were talking about when with the guys, uh, the level of act is a little bit different. It's, there's a little more goofing off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a gentleman is going to be a good example to those around him. So when it's time, let's say you're at like some sort of camp or something, I don't know,
Yep.
and you're with your guys in your cabin, whatever. But when it's time to shut off the lights and go to bed, you shut off the lights and you go to bed. Even if the guys
Mm,
around you don't, you
yep.
do. Because when you follow the rules, a gentleman follows the rules.
Yep.
And then also one more thing, real quick. Something that this is something that I personally have thought of, and um, but when I was really young, me and my immediate family, extended family, we were down in Florida. One of my uncles was graduating from college, and so we are out on the beach. We're little kids. I don't even remember how old we were, but pretty young. And we're on the beach. I don't know if you know about at a beach. There's a flag, and there's either green, yellow, or red flags on there. Green means super calm. The water is great to be in. Everything. Yellow means I think there might be a few other colors, but kind of mandate. But anyway, yellow, as I'm sure you probably imagine by now, it means it's getting choppy. And then red is there's waves out there, and it's pretty much just not safe to be in the water right then.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so we were out there, we are hanging out. We've been down there quite a few times, and we're just out in the water. I think it was a yellow flag day, so it was definitely more choppy. In fact, it was enough that we were standing in waist deep water, and then the riptide would pull out just as a wave would come in. The wave would come in over our heads. And anyway, we were having a lot of fun with it. It was great. There was adults all over the place, our family and
Yeah.
everything. So obviously we are staying safe. But one thing that we were doing is we'd all like hold hands and try to see if we can stand as the waves crashing over us.
Did
And
you ever?
yeah, quite a
Oh,
few
oh,
times.
nice.
But one thing that I thought of, like in that moment, was now this was actually a kind of a good life lesson. Is like as a gentleman, as a man, something that I wanted to be for my sisters and then someday for my wife is I want to be that anchor. I'm want to be reliable. I want to be faithful. I'm always there, always ready. They can trust in me as somebody that they can anchor to, and they know that I'm not going to waver. I'm not going to float off in the riptide. That so something, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, and just a really good life lesson pop into mind is like a gentleman is an anchor. You're stand firm. A gentleman should know what he believes, stand firm on it. A gentleman should always be faithful. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. When you say you're going to be somewhere, you be there. If for some reason you can't be there, you let whoever it is know ahead
Yeah.
of time.
And that really reaches into the larger scope of chivalry. And
Yeah.
it really does. But then you really, there's no use being a gentleman if you can't also have the other aspects of chivalry.
Mm.
Now, usually,
But-
gentleman it is sometimes generally spoken of as chivalry, and sometimes specifically in just social conduct, how you act. But yeah, that's a big thing, is you need that's all. Being a gentleman is the first piece of being a man.
Yes. A gentleman is a man. Not always is a man a gentleman, but a gentleman is always a man.
And though when I say being a man, I mean it man with a capital M.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of guys out there, but there's not a lot of men out there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I like referring to guys and girls, and then there's men and there's ladies.
Yes.
I like that. That's why I actually casually will refer to guys and girls, even though I understand it's girls. Oh, that's younger. I use that general term because I don't want to. I don't necessarily call anyone a lady. I don't necessarily call anyone a man, because you have to earn that.
Yes.
So with that being said, when to be a man, when to be a gentleman, all the time. With who to be a gentleman, with everyone, but the rules change slightly when you're around guys. The rules do change, but there still are.
Mm-hmm.
There's still codes of conduct. There's still, this is you doing what's right, no matter what other people think.
Like we were saying, being a gentleman is a way of life. It's not just a part of your life. So
yeah,
even when you're with the guys, being a gentleman should always be there. It should be always a part of everything you do. Yeah.
And then why? The biggest thing, is why be a gentleman? It's not to impress girls. It's not
although it's not to impress girls, but it does help.
Hey, yeah. I'm just saying it might. You might have a bigger chance. For the right girls.
That's true.
For the wrong girls, it might not work very well, but I mean, that's their loss. So why to be a gentleman is, it's not to impress people, not to impress adults, and it's not to make you feel better about yourself. It's about you knowing what's right and doing it. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what being a gentleman is. And how to be a gentleman is first knowing yourself, and you're talking about learning your personalities. 16personalities.com. Check it out. Take the quiz. Look at the personalities. You can match yourself up. It helps a lot with getting some introspection if you don't do that intuitively. How is knowing yourself, understanding the way people around you react, and instead of reacting to situations, proacting. Already knowing what you're going to do, deciding, not reacting. And then always considering ladies, putting them first, taking them and putting them on a higher pedestal than you. And when you're with guys, always not ever taking something too far. That's a big thing. And so with that being said, that's the basics of how to be a gentleman.
Being a gentleman is a lot of common sense.
It really is, but it's also a lot of repetition and memory.
Yeah, I would definitely say look up George Washington's Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversation, or to go simpler, just say George Washington's rules to be a gentleman.
Yeah, and it's I actually haven't read it yet because I think I only saw a few of them. But anyway, so yeah, look that up. It will be worth your while.
Definitely.
And now, with that said, we're going to do a last segment. What is making you happy? And I'll let you go first.
All right. So I was talking to Sass about this Sunday. I definitely had to think about it a little bit because I'm not generally just like, this is making me happy. But let's see. I think one thing recently has been our new vehicle. Well, I mean, new to us.
Yes.
About a month ago, our vehicle died, and so our my wife's parents, Ruth, so his
So
parents,
my parents,
they called Ruth and they're like, "Hey, we want to help you guys out. We want to get you a vehicle." And so a few crazy situations with that, but finally we ended up with a nice little vehicle. One of my favorite things about it is it goes fast.
yeah, it's the Honda
Accord,
Honda Accord 2003
2003
V6.
Mm-hmm.
Nice speedy little demon.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that's one thing that's making me happy recently. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's what's making you happy.
Yeah.
Awesome. So with me, I just got we were in a whole process of getting phones switched over, which was chaotic and at certain points annoying. But it's not the phone that's making me happy. I switched to iOS, which I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I deeply apologize. I'll be extremely apologetic till the day I die. And I'm probably going to switch back to Android as soon as they get their video game going. But I switched to iOS because they got amazing video cameras, and then they're just a stable system. So I'm okay with that. I still have Windows because, yeah. Anyway, what's making me happy though is with all that going on, right next to the T-Mobile, which is what we switched to. We switched from Verizon to T-Mobile, and I got a phone. Is a Chipotle, and I've been wanting to try them out for the longest time, and I finally got to, and I got to try the Ryan Trahan Fun Drink, which it really is good. Though don't add too much lemonade. That's the only thing. Otherwise, it can get a little too sour.
Mhm.
Make sure I have plenty of that Aqua Fresca. It is an amazing drink. You guys have to try it. And I got to try their burritos. So that was so good. It was so delicious. I actually had it twice because we went to T-Mobile different times and didn't get back in time for dinner. So I actually got Chipotle twice, and it's just so good. So good. So yeah, that's basically what's making me happy. I will have a link to 16 Personalities. Do you have any social you want to put down there? Or,
I don't have social.
You don't have you don't
Yeah,
know,
I don't
have any
have
public
anything on
social that you want to
Yeah.
share with everyone? No.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have my phone, but I'm not gonna put my phone number on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have Snapchat, but
I have Snapchat too.
That's basically an extension of texting.
Yeah, for me it is.
But yeah, so thank you for watching or listening to our podcast. And hope you have a blessed day. I don't know exactly who I have coming on for next week, but I do know that I have a video, not this next Thursday, but the Thursday after, coming out about maturity. We're working on that right now. It's going to be really fun, really good. You are not going to want to miss it. So come back next Tuesday for our next podcast, and next 2 Thursdays for our video. Peace. See y'all later.